Welcome back to Classical Guitar Therapy. I'm Emily Davis, and this is episode 2. This one will be in 2 parts because we're going to take a couple of episodes to look at Pumping Nylon by Scott Tennant. A brief recap: I've been having some hand issues. Recently saw a doctor about the problems I've been having, and he recommended, first of all, to meet and talk with other musicians who have maybe had similar problems. So that's ironic since that's a lot of what I'm doing in this series. And I'm also having a nerve study done in a couple of weeks to rule out carpal tunnel. So I'll give you an update on that. But right now, my plan is to work through these technique books and share some of the exercises that I'm finding useful working through some of these hand problems. So first off, a little bit about my practice routine going through this. Right now, I'm doing very short practice sessions. 15-20 minutes scattered throughout the day when I can grab them. And in those practice sessions, what I'm doing is making sure I'm staying as relaxed as possible and also trying to stay relaxed as possible throughout the day. When you're driving, sometimes you tend to tense up on the steering wheel, and just sort of daily activity, sometimes we hold tension in our bodies without realizing it. So trying to be very aware of how my body's responding to different stressors and trying to stay nice and relaxed. So my practice sessions, first of all, being aware of any tension, and then I'm balancing it with technique exercises from Pumping Nylon at the moment, and also doing simpler songs like source studies, especially like Opus 31, and also doing some easier pieces, some things that I'm more familiar with. So I've created a small program to just help me stay motivated and keep me focused as well. I find in practice sessions, if I don't have a plan, if I don't have music I need to work on or skills I need to work on, I can get through the practice session and not really have accomplished anything. So I try to make sure that I write down my goals. If you could see my notebook, even today, I had 11:15 to 11:30, and I wrote down exactly what I practiced, and I also am making notes of what I'm noticing in my hands. So when I go back and meet with the doctor, I can let him know what I'm feeling as I'm playing guitar. All right, we're going to do Pumping Nylon today. And if you do not have this book, I do recommend it. It's a great handbook by Scott Tennant. You can get it in different formats. You can get it like this, just the book. You can get it with a DVD. You can get it in tab. And I highly recommend this one. I think it's interesting in here he says in the very beginning that he does not consider this a method book. He does consider it a handbook for technical issues, things he says he has had to work on and he has seen other people need to work on a lot. And I really like how it's divided. You know exactly what you're working on with each exercise. He's very clear on how he explains how to do them, and it's written in a very light-hearted tone as well. There's some humor in it, which is fun. And, he's a good teacher and great at explaining and devising this text. What I've been doing from this has right now been some of the very basic exercises. I've done the press and relax one, and on these, what I'm trying to do is focus only on one hand at a time. That way I can really isolate what is going on with each hand, whether it be hand position, finger movement, are my joints hyperextending, etc. So the first one with the press and relax exercise, I have just kind of found me a comfortable place where my shoulder, everything is nice and relaxed, and my fingers don't have to stretch too far right now. And on that, I've just been doing what he recommends, where you just press and make sure you really feel your hand empty out any tension as you're doing that. After that, I go on to the left hand finger independence, and I'm starting off with the very first one he has in there, and these are some of the first ones in his handbook. And on that one, again, I'm just finding a nice comfortable place and just walking through those. And for right now, I'm not doing anything over here, like I said, just because I really want to notice how my finger's moving. And he says to keep it light as a feather So trying to think of it sort of bouncing, and then the other fingers, even though they're on the strings, make sure they're not gripping. That's one thing I see so much in beginner students. When they approach the instrument, they think they've got to squeeze it to death to get a sound. And it's interesting because one of my adult students just emailed me yesterday. We had to cancel her lesson, and she said, well, that's good actually, because I went to the doctor and he said I've got tendonitis in my left hand. Now she's a mandolin student, and on that instrument sometimes you can really get your hand contorted and you can really try to grip those double strings. So I told her we would come back at her next lesson and really work on a game plan to make sure that the mandolin playing is not causing her these problems. So making sure that your hand is completely empty of tension after you have pressed down on the strings. That's the press and relax and the left hand finger independence exercises. Then what I usually do is I go to the Tremolo exercise and the Tremolo section in here, and it's toward the back of the text. Let me see if I can find it in case you're wanting to follow along or look at the book. It's on page 56. And another thing that he does well is he gives you goals on your exercises, what you should be trying to achieve out of these. And he says on the goals, practice each one until the fast notes feel easy. These are designed almost like speed bursts. And do not move on until the first one feels easy. Strive for equal volume on all notes, equal duration on all notes. Feel each note before you play it and listen to each as you play it. So when I'm doing these tremolo exercises, what I'm looking and listening for is how my finger feels when it's playing. I've noticed some problems with my thumb lately. Some of it is because my thumbnail keeps breaking, and so I try to adjust my hand instead of just try to ignore that the nail's broken. So try to listen to how each one of those notes is sounding, and I'm doing them super slow right now because I really want to feel how those fingers are engaging. And I like the tremolo because you can focus on your balance as well and your volume. So now I'm doing them nice and light, playing each note super short so that the next finger can get on the string as soon as possible, and feeling how those fingers are relaxing, listening for the volume. I'm not doing anything very aggressively at the moment because I don't want to do any more straining on the hand. And I feel like, the time to really dig into the strings and, try to push through for volume, that will come a little bit later, hopefully not too long. I'm hoping maybe in a couple of weeks I'll be back to doing that. But right now, just really feeling that movement. And I've only done the first one. He's got several on there where, you add on 16th notes until you're finally just doing tremolo and 16th. But I'm just doing the basic one so I can really watch that right hand, notice exactly what it's doing and how the rest of my arm is feeling as I'm playing that. What tends to happen is as I'm doing that, I get to the faster notes, I can tell my shoulders start to tense up. So there again, you have to be aware of how your body's feeling as you're doing these. So I do those, the tremolo, left hand independence. I sometimes will do hammer-ons. Those are great because you're listening again for the balance of your hand and kind of watching that snap. So when I'm doing those right now, when I do the snap, I kind of let my finger go at the moment just so I can really feel that tension completely go away. So the left hand slurs, doing those, and then the Giuliani right hand studies. In those, if you're familiar with them, you do a C and a G7 chord. I think that's the right one on that. Back and forth and back and forth. Right now with the pain I've been having in my index finger, I've changed that to either only open strings, so just following what the strings would be and doing that all right hand, or I do it with a D and an A7 chord. I don't know that it really matters what chord you're doing, so long as you're following what the right hand is doing on those. So on that I've been doing the entire group one, and they're laid out where you would repeat each little exercise there, but I usually do several repeats of that just so I can feel how my hand is working on those. And he talks in there, of course, about sequential planting and full planting. So it's important, if you're doing those Giuliani exercises, to really follow the planting guidelines in those. Otherwise, you're just going to be hitting at the strings and you might not have the control of the sound that you would need if you're not planting correctly. So group 1 only on those. Let me just find it real quick so I can show you a little bit of what I've been doing. So let's say I did exercise. Let me just give you, we'll just do one. So when I'm doing that, I'm going to have to pick my guitar up a little bit here so you can see it better. So when I'm doing those, watching that the right hand, making sure I don't try to watch the music and the right hand, but really noticing, okay, right hand is getting on there. And right now, again, I'm not overplaying it, because really what I want to do is just dig into the strings and get as loud as I possibly can with my sound, but that's not working for me right now. So just noticing too, is my wrist a little too arched? That's something sometimes we can let go, especially if you find yourself just sitting around playing for fun, and if you play with a pick very much, or if you're in a situation where you're teaching or you're playing a gig somewhere and you might just not be paying as much attention to what your hands are doing, that can cause some real problems. So I've had to go back and look at my right hand and say, is my wrist arched a little bit too much? And I actually think that it has been. So, it doesn't matter how long you've been playing. You could be a professional, you could be a young student, you could just be someone who plays the guitar just for stress relief. And it doesn't matter how long you've been playing. It never hurts to go back and look at these basics and really study again what you've learned in the past, the right way to play, and to make sure that you are keeping up on those principles and that you're not letting things slide. So that's the first part of pumping nylon, what I'm doing right now. Those are just a few of the fabulous exercises you can get out of this handbook. And next time we're going to do a few of the harder ones, and I'll also let you know how these have helped. I try to pick out source studies or pieces of music right now that help incorporate these exercises that I've been doing. So, the soar, really, you can get a lot of great right hand work out of the soar, but also when you're doing any of those type of things, it's still important to be musical. It doesn't matter if you're playing the easiest piece on the planet or if you're just playing a scale. You still want to be getting that creative and musical side of your playing out there. So that's something, I give these studies to my young students a lot, and sometimes they just treat them like, oh, well, it's just a study, play it, throw it away. But a lot of them have very beautiful musical ideas, so why not get the most out of them, enjoy them? So I've actually had a lot of fun playing through the source studies again, and next time I'll let you know some of the pieces that I'm working on for a short program, and we'll go back through some more of the pumping nylon. If you don't have that, I recommend that you do pick that up. If you are enjoying this series, please put a like or subscribe to the video, and I also welcome comments and suggestions on where to go from here. I've got other books that I'm going to be looking at and some that have been suggested, but I would appreciate any other tips or hand exercises, any ideas for healing things like tendonitis, carpal tunnel, etc. So I will see you next time. Bye.